And we're back with the Costello Coaching Podcast. I'm Tommy Costello with dual PhD, Dr. Stephen Frueh in theology and psychology. It's always a pleasure for me to get to do this because as much as this is about me extracting information from Stephen and us collaborating about what we are working with and providing you value and providing you content to work with for yourself, this is a great opportunity for me to go through the process and really understand what I am working on. Stephen, where I want to start is you consistently ask me a question whenever we do our work or when I show up in any environment with you. You ask me the simple question, where are you right now? And I want to start with that because where are you has a lot to do with the spiritual life and the athletes and their inner meaning. So where are you right now?
Well, that's a good question to start. I agree with you. It's a good question. It's a question that the question of orientation, right? That all of us, if you show up, I was just talking to Tommy about a man, a company CEO, owner of the company, who showed up at his front door every night with his briefcase in his hand and his cell phone at his ear. And he said, "Hi, honey, I'm home." And he walked straight through to the back of the house and got in his office and finished making his business calls. And he had very, very little going on in his marriage that was pleasurable and enjoyable. So the question for him would be, when he drives in the driveway, where are you right now? What's going on with you right now? Because in the house was his partner, his wife, and his two daughters. And in the house, they were in a completely different place. If I could show up there and say to them, where are you right now? Oh, Daddy's coming home. I can't wait to see him. Oh, my husband's coming home. He's going to be in a bit. We'll eat in about an hour, Stephen, if you want to join it. So we would start to zero in on what each of us brings into the conversation. If you want to talk about spirituality, and Tommy and I want to talk about spirituality, that's really the first question. Where are you? Not where are you not, but where are you?
Yeah, and I think I have a tendency to answer that question of where am I not? So.
Yes.
And a lot of people struggle with that. You want to find that center balance. And as athletes, we want to consistently find that focal point, that focus, that attention to detail, that discipline. And so if you ask someone, where are they? If you ask me, where are they? A lot of times what you get is I'll start to answer where I'm not. Meaning yes. You kind of ask me today, for example, I sit down to do this podcast with you. And you asked me, where are you?
Yes.
And I said, well, I'm trying to center myself to get ready to talk about this heavy topic of spiritual life. And you said, no, that's where you're not. Where are you right now?
Yes.
And then I told Stephen, I said, well, there's many different discussions that I'm going through today. There's a lot of transitionings happening today, meaning going from a training session to a throwing session to talking about an individual's injury and what the protocol is there, discussing someone's business opportunity into a podcast with you. I'm going to record 2 more episodes with a doctor in psychology at UCLA Hospital. And then I'll go back and finish my day with training sessions. So there's a lot of transitionings happening to me for today. And what I was trying to do was center myself in the moment. And for athletes, that happens all the time. I remember myself, wanting to be present with my teammates on the bus going to the game and enjoy that process. And then go to the warm-up and transition into the warm-up.
Yes.
And then go and warm up to pitch before the game and throw my bullpen and be present in that bullpen. And then go into the first inning and throw the first inning, come back into the dugout, be present for the team's offensive approach, then go back out. And for me as a pitcher, there's a ton of transitions that would happen, and the focus in between, and how do you shift your focus and learn to relax, but then learn to be present. And so I think that's something that's really hard to navigate, and I think it directly ties into our spiritual center.
Oh, I do too. As a coach, the kind of coach you are, I am also a coach, but I'm a different kind of coach. I coach people in using the various streams of my background, my divinity studies, my psychological studies, my leadership studies. I coach people, kind of helping them to get to identify where they are. So it's not uncommon in my office for somebody to walk in and say, Stephen, I almost canceled today. I say, really? Yeah, because I didn't know I didn't have anything to talk about. That is always profound for me and amusing for me.
So with you and what you just touched on with your professional studies, right, of theology and psychology and leadership and all these incredible accreditations that you have and years of experience of helping these individuals, where I want to start so people understand, spirituality is not all the same as religion.
Right.
Right. And so that's the first kind of space that I want to create here.
Okay. All right.
Spirituality is not the same as religion, and it is as different as learning is to education.
Yeah.
So we could go through a process of learning, right? But that could be different than formal education. So I love that note that you make regarding spirituality is different than religion, just as learning is different than education.
Looking at a sunset, or as I did 2 weeks ago, looking at my 16th great-grandchild who was recently born to my grandson, who is a police officer, and holding that little baby 2 weeks old in my hands. Now, that's a spiritual moment for me. I resonate to that, and I'm in awe of that. The older I get, the more I'm in awe. 85 years separates us. And he's going to be in this world. I'm going to be leaving this world. So some people say we're both closer to the other world because he just came in and I'm just about to go out. So we're both closer to a world. Now, to get that, to know that, is to feel something different than, oh, I'm a grandfather and I'm holding him and so forth. So there's a resonance. Now, if you know the resonance of a good sunset and you know the resonance of holding a great-grandson, if you know that resonance, you know the resonance of being in love, then you know the difference between religion and spirituality. Because you can go to church or synagogue and you can go through the rituals and through the motions, but have the Spirit never touch you. You can say, I am married, but have never, hardly ever touch each other or know each other in a deeply spiritual way. Never say, wow. Never say, oh, huh. Never say that. You're going through the details, the roommate details every day, roommates, but you're not touching the spirituality. So one of the things I'd like to accomplish in this short podcast is for you listeners to get a sense of the difference between those two. There's some distinctions we made. Do you want to go through those, or I want me to go through those, or how do you want to go?
First, I want you to break down some of the meanings around spirituality. The word spirit, what that means, breathe, soul, courage, vigor.
Breath. The ancient way of thinking of spirit is breath. That's the Holy Spirit, the holy breath.
And then entheos?
Entheos is the root word in Greek of the word enthusiasm. I never knew this until the farmer that I lived with when I left home at 13. I visited him at 28 years old, and he introduced me to his friends, and he said, the thing I always loved about Stephen was he has enthusiasm. He said it that way. I got back to California, and I looked up the word.
Enthusiasm? You didn't know what it meant?
I knew what enthusiasm meant, but I didn't know the root of it was entheos.
Entheos, which means the God within.
Means the God within, which just blew me away. I actually named a small business.
It's Latin, right?
Yeah. So the God within us, you don't see, if you're religious, you're talking about whether you believe in your God or don't believe in your God or all this stuff. You have all these intellectual conversations. I was in seminary. There was very little spirituality in seminary, believe me, very little. There was a lot of religion. So I want to make that distinction because religion has to do with practices and theories and symbol systems and things like that, where spirituality was the farmer George putting his hands on my shoulder and said, Stephen has enthusiasm, Stephen has a God within. Well, everybody has a God within. And one of the works of good psychotherapists is to help the person discover the God within them.
Yep.
So it's ridiculous if they say, I didn't know what I was going to talk about today, because you have so much to talk about, not so little. It's just the art of the helping agent, the therapist or coach. The art is to help them release what wants to come up and what wants to be born.
It's beautiful. And you are religious, even though you work in your spirituality. You are religious.
Well, that's a good question. Some ways I do practices, yes. I meditate. I honor certain religious holidays. They lead me to certain kinds of reflection. So in that way, yes. In terms of seeing a particular form as the right form or the wrong form, no, I don't buy into that. So I could be just as happy in my spirituality sitting in a synagogue tomorrow morning as I could be sitting in a Roman Catholic cathedral, as I could be sitting with a bunch of Bible-thumping far-right Protestants praising the Lord. I can be comfortable in many settings because my spirituality is mine, not theirs.
That's interesting. I never even realized that with you.
Huh.
It's cool. So a few distinctions. Religion promotes certain practices.
Yeah.
So does coaching.
Yes. That's a good distinction, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Good coaching provides habits and routines and disciplines, and so does religion.
You do it well.
Yeah. Yeah, I feed off that. I grab momentum. And I think people do well with religion, and I do too, do well with religion because it provides that structure.
Yeah, but I want to interrupt you. You know, what I have heard about you is that you, like your dad, bring a spiritual sense. So the athlete knows the difference between the operationalizing of it, here's how you do it, and the spirit you bring when you're hanging out in Arizona or something, and these young men are saying, hey, who are you? Mm-hmm. Tell me more. We want more. That's the spiritual.
Yeah, that's the spirit side. Yeah, the tough one to explain is the spirit.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely.
And then spirituality contains hopes, visions, and dreams.
Yeah, well, you know, somebody said, I think his name was Bruce Chilton, a professor back at Bard. He said that dreams are the way God talks to people. Now, that's probably Jung would go along with that there's a language that we all are seeking to get a hold of in identifying and describing what we're about. You have a coach's language down. You're very effective at that. But even that language is always reaching because you're dealing with individuals who are unique. And so the language has to be able to capture their uniqueness at the same time capture your structure. So dreams are a language. Aspirations, visions are a language that if I ask you, who are you spiritually? And you say, I don't know. Say, I'm a Baptist, or I'm a Catholic, or I'm Jewish. I say, that's not what I asked you. I say, what do you dream of? Not only your nighttime dreams, what do you dream of? Where are you going? What are you aspire, breath. What are you aspiring toward? If you start asking that kind of question, the person will start opening to you their spiritual life.
Now, let me challenge you on something. Where does spirituality rest within religion?
Well, that's a really good question because one of the most famous people in this discussion was Jesus of Nazareth, and Jesus was very critical of the religious leaders. Very, very critical of the religious leaders. And he would say things like, you know, you just don't get it. You've made religion into made religion make man the servant. And for me, it's the reverse. Religion, I'm not the servant of religion. I'm connected to the spiritual depth of my origins and of my life here on earth. And that's what I bring to the conversation. So I think it's really critical to get a hold of that, to get a hold of what you're saying. What is that distinction about? Is that what you asked, what the distinction was?
No, not distinction, but where does spirituality rest within religion?
Oh, where does it
because if you're so caught up in, and this is important, and I'll tie this into athletics, but I think it's just a good concept for anyone to understand, is when we say spiritual, where does your inner being rest within the operations of say, the structures of a team or a religion or a church,
right,
or a business or anything. Like when you're part of a group, where does your inner being rest within that group, and how do you illuminate that?
It's a great question.
Versus keep that hidden or never find that.
Yeah. Because if you walk into a church or a synagogue, you can almost immediately feel whether there's spirit present. And it's not just hand clapping and jumping up and down. It's whether there is love, a force of love and connectedness and wonder.
Okay. So there's a man named Father Preston. He's a really good friend of mine. I should probably have him on my podcast. Incredible priest, Hawaiian guy. He has a parish in Camarillo. And I've been to many different Catholic churches, grew up Catholic. And you can go to church on a Sunday, go to Sunday Mass, and feel the religion, but maybe struggle to feel the spirit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, they celebrated 15 years of Father Preston in the priesthood not too long ago at the end of the summer. And I showed up to the Mass because he's a good friend. I don't consistently go to his Mass, but I went to the Mass because he's a good friend of mine, and I wanted to support him in his endeavor. And I think he's an incredible man. So I went. The Spirit was living there. People from all over the world showed up for his 15th year anniversary of his priesthood.
Wow.
Women, nuns from Samoa. People from the Hawaiian Islands. I think 17 different states were represented.
Wow.
From America. Europeans had traveled in for this one Mass.
Yes.
To celebrate him. And then there was a massive Hawaiian luau after the Mass for everyone to celebrate him. He shows up with spirit.
Yes.
Maybe some call it an aloha spirit, but he shows up with spirit in everything that he does. And then when he teaches the religion, his spirit is living within it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him so special to me.
Yeah.
And that's why he's the one priest that I would always go to and love on and be there with, because he shows up with spirit. Yes, he has the education and went through the seminary and teaches the religion and knows it at a profound level, right? Like all the men do go through the priesthood.
Yeah.
Or go through any religious order, or go through any level of education, right? But when he shows up and when he speaks, he has a different level of spirit.
Right.
And so we see that in athletes. When athletes play, we can see people with all the same skill attributes, right? They all, let's say we line up 10 players, 10 running backs, and they all run a 4.3 40, right? But who is the one that's going to play with the most spirit and energy and passion is the one that you're going to want to play with, not play against, or bet on. Like you want the guy with the most spirit. And so the question then goes to not so much about identifying it, because it's something we can all feel. It's something we can all feel. The question is, how do you allow that spirit to shine? And what do you have to do to tap into your spirit, to let your spirit shine in anything that you do?
Yeah.
That's where my brain goes.
Well, that's a good place to go. I recently watched an interview on my phone, actually, of a college coach whose team did much more poorly than it was predicted they would do in football this year. The team was predicted to do very well, and they did reasonably poorly. And I watched the coach being interviewed, and he was flat and apologetic and little boy-like, and he kept saying, well, we're going to do better. We got to fix that. And I was thinking, if I were an athlete, I wouldn't want to play for that man. Not very long after, I watched another coach talk about his football team, and he seemed centered in talking about his players and what they were accomplishing. And yeah, we have places to improve, but there was something in him that made me say, not, of course, not ideally or perfectly, but I would pick playing for that coach. I wouldn't pick playing for this coach. Even if I got more money or whatever it was, I would pick playing for the coach with heart, with presence, with availability. He felt those things. And he had a player sitting at the table, and he would refer to him quite frequently. The first coach had 2 players at the table and didn't refer to either of them, just let them sit there silently. So it was all about him. It was a religious in our conversation. It was a religious presentation, not a spiritual one.
And so how would you help someone tap more into their spirit?
Well, I think you start, this is really radical. Radical means to the roots, but I think if you want to get into your spirituality, you have to get into your grief. And that sounds strange because you live in a culture, you live in a society where the spirit has been quelled, it has been denied, it has been suppressed, it has been shamed. The little boy spirit.
So I'm going to cut you off there, but where is the grief for, let's say, an athlete? Let's get specific. Is the grief in, their upbringing as a child, or is there grief in maybe shortcomings in their career? Where is their grief?
Maybe all of those things. Maybe in the way they were told to perform and couldn't. Maybe in the way that they knew they could be coached but didn't get coached that way. Maybe in the abandonment of the father not being home and going to work.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you again further on this.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to unravel with you. Someone listens to this, and the toughest part, and let me back up a second. The toughest part for me working with you is that as an athlete, my whole focus was, if I go to work with someone, I'm going to see improvement fast.
Yes.
And in this world of work, it's so hard to quantify what the results are or the improvement.
Measurable. That's right.
Because the spirit is hard to measure.
Yeah.
Now, I think when people are trying something new, let's call weight loss because that's an easy example. When they're trying something new, it's easy to say the diet is working, the scale has less weight showing, right? And they can stay consistent with that. I think the hard part about this is the results become exponential. You live a happier, more fulfilled life with more consistent results, being confident in what you're doing, showing up with spirit, showing up with energy that you didn't know you had.
Right.
Those are our results. And they're boundless. So it's incredible work because you don't get to see the short measured results, but the change that happens over time is unquantifiable. And so that's very special, and that's a testament to you. But my thing is, as someone listens to this and they're trying to tap more into the spirit, where's a place to start for them?
Yeah.
Is it something to read? Is it a prayer to say? Is it a meditation to follow? How do you help someone tap into their spirit that might kind of start showing them where their grief is or where their challenge lies? Because a lot of people don't even know where their challenge lies.
Exactly.
So where would you if you could have someone that was listening right now and you said, hey, if you just tapped into your spirit, Stephen, a little bit more, if you just tapped into your spirit a little bit more, you could be exponential with your results.
So I would start by saying, where are you now? Because if you ask an athlete, he is going to imagine, or she is going to imagine, that you're asking about where are they in their conditioning, or where are they in their career, or what are they working on. So your book that will be out for everybody someday is the person inside the athlete. The question that a person like me would ask has to be artful enough to say, who is this person sitting here, standing here? What are you doing? You say, well, I'm involved in a bunch of different things today, and I got some real demands on me, and I need to center. So I say, oh, okay, well, that's a good answer. Is there grief in that answer? You're absolutely perfectly sure there's grief in that answer, because this is a guy that's an overachiever. He's a guy that's achieved a lot in his young life. Tommy is. So you can imagine, though this isn't private knowledge for me, I can imagine there's been plenty of times when he was driving himself beyond what he wanted to or could at that time. He was making notes, he was working out, he was consistent, he was driven. And guess what? There's a little boy in that wanted to go play in the mud and not give a crap about being in shape that day, or not give a crap about what the team did that day. As a little boy, he wanted to just say, screw it all. I'm going to go play. I'm going to go run. I'm going to have an ice cream. I don't care what I eat today. Now, there's grief there. We call it grief. It doesn't look like grief because the little boy, there's an orphan inside the boy, and there's a golden child inside the boy. The orphan says, it's okay. I'll just toughen up. The golden child within says, wait. I missed a piece of my childhood. I missed a day, or I missed a month, or I missed an opportunity too. That's life itself. And there's grief in life itself without making it about a specific loss, like a death. There's grief in life itself. Going to school, I say, has grief in it for a 6-year-old boy, because I have 4 sons. And I've watched them go to school. And that day, it wasn't what they wanted to do. We live in a nice property. They were playing out, climbing in trees, had tree houses of animals, chickens and ducks and everything. They were having a great old time. And why would I want to go to school? Why would I want to sit in that chair, not get home till 3 in the afternoon, have people tell me what I should do and who I am and what I should? There's grief there. So there's a lot of dimensions of grief. Going to bed at a certain time, if you're a little boy, you don't want to go to bed. The shooting stars are coming tomorrow night. You don't want to go to bed. You want to see the shooting stars. And your dad comes home at 6 or 7 o'clock. You don't want him to come home at 6 or 7 o'clock. You want him home at 3 so you can toss the ball with him in the backyard. Your mom says this or that. You got to do your homework. What's homework? Who cares about homework? I'm 7. I'm not interested in homework, Mom. But you can't say that to her. That's considered rude behavior. So you buckle it up and you do the homework, but you've lost something in doing it. You've also gained something. I know. I have a daughter who's a college professor and a teacher, and she'd say, yeah, Dad, but I get that. I get the other side of that argument. But I'm talking from the heart. We're talking from spirituality and grief. And the grief is a lot about what's lost, even in small pieces.
And then, so you're saying once you tap into that, you can identify your spirit?
Yes. Yeah, because you're identifying your heart. And you're not letting anybody shame it or judge it or shape it. You're saying, look, I'm a second grader too, and I don't happen to like sitting in that hard wooden bench in the second grade for 5 hours.
So the spirit is more about what you naturally are.
Yeah.
Rather than what you're schooled to be.
Yeah. And then you could look at, there's this famous statement in the New Testament when Jesus was, I think, 12 or so, and his parents lost track of him, so they go looking for him, and he's talking to the religious leaders, and he's 12, but he's got great insight
in a church.
Yeah, he's got great curiosity, and his parents are. I could just imagine it. Where have you been? What are you doing? We're so worried about you. He said, I'm just doing what I do.
That's the spirit within.
Yeah.
Doing what you do. And now to wrap it up with the athletes, you got to play as you are. And you got to be in a position where you're doing what you do. You do it because you love doing it, not because you want to be structured and perfect
You're
all the time.
You're talking about love for the game.
Love for the game, but I'm also talking about when people are trying to perfect their craft. Like a little coaching point I'll give pitchers sometimes is they'll learn all the mechanics and they'll learn the fundamentals of the teachings and things that are really important. Once they're starting to get it a little bit, once they start to get a little bit, that's when they overthink it.
Yeah.
You can think of someone learning religion. They start to get a little bit and they start to overdo it.
Right.
What I tell them at that point is I say, okay, rub your head a little bit, shake your head, and drop everything I ever said. Forget it forever. They're like, what? I said, forget it forever. Forget it forever. Be an athlete and throw this as hard as you can. Just be an athlete and throw it as hard as you can. Forget everything I said. What do you mean? You just taught me this for 45 minutes. Forget it. Yeah. And be.
Yes.
And that's what helps them kind of tap back into that spirit.
Yes. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
So that
you should come out to a pitching session one time.
I will. I'd love to.
You want to come to a bullpen tomorrow morning?
I can't tomorrow morning because I'm booked, but I will do that. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, you should come.
Yeah,
you would love
it. If I know the schedule. So the end of this, right, is to notice something. If the athlete honors and notices this compelling need to be grounded in his spiritual life, he knows the difference between that and religion, between that and other people's rules and regulations, between that and how he should be and ought to be and all that. He knows the difference, and he's accessing his spirit at a deep level, at a free level, and that's accessing his love. And if he's accessing his love, he is much more reliable than he is if he's living under somebody's outline and somebody's form, somebody else's form.
Yeah. So, mechanics and structure can only get you so far. Your spirit is going to have to live within you in order for you to kind of reach where you want to be. Yeah.
Robert Frost, the poet, if we have time, I'll say you this quick poem. It's a spiritual poem. He said, whose woods are these? Stopping by the woods on a snowy evening, he said, whose woods are these? Think of that. Whose woods are these? I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it's queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound I hear is easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. It's Robert Frost.